Benoit Courrèges, chief of police of the small French town of Saint-Denis, and known to everyone as Bruno, had been looking forward to this day so much that he'd never considered the possibility that it might end in tragedy. The prospect of meeting his boyhood hero, of being invited into his home and shaking the hand of one of France's most illustrious sons, had awed him, and Bruno was not easily awed. Bruno had followed the career of the Patriarch since, as a boy, he had first read of his exploits in a much-thumbed copy of Paris Match in a dentist's waiting room. He had devoured the article and dreamed of starting a scrapbook on his newfound hero, but had no money for the magazines and newspapers he would require. The young Bruno made do instead with libraries, first at his church orphanage, and later, when he'd been taken into the stormy, child-filled household of his aunt, at the public library in Bergerac. The images had remained in his head, his hero silhouetted against camouflaged fighter planes in the snow, wearing shorts and a heavy sidearm in some desert, drinking toasts in one ornate palace or grand salon after another. His favourite was the one that showed the Patriarch as pilot, his helmet just removed and his hair tousled, waving from his cockpit to a cheering crowd of mechanics and airmen after he'd become the first Frenchman to break the sound barrier. Bruno couldn't help but smile at his own excitement. His boyhood was long behind him, and he knew grown men should not feel like this. Bruno had worn a military uniform himself, knew the chaos of orders and counter-orders and all the messy friction of war. He knew, as only a veteran can, that the public image of the Patriarch must conceal flaws, fiascos, and botched operations. He should have grown out of this hero worship, or at least appeased it now that he had been able to call up old newsreels and TV interviews on his computer. But some stubborn, glowing core remained of that boyhood devotion he'd felt for a man he thought of as France's last hero.